In this video, we're going to talk about the AimFlex 2 setup screens, or setup menu. So if we hit the gears on the right-hand side, we can edit or change the profile or create a new profile if we need to. That's normally if we have issues or we're changing a major configuration. Most times we're going to stay out of that. If we go into the wrench and screwdriver, there are some settings in here to look at. Control valve setup. So we do have some valve response rate on how fast it adjusts the valve. Most times we will not have to touch that. If you are having some issues, contact us. We can help you determine if it's not holding the rate properly, what the best setting would be for you, or if we should look at something outside the cab before we start pushing buttons inside. Minimum NCV PWM. Your NCVs will only go down to 25% duty cycle. So once you drop down to 25%, it will actually over apply if you go too slow. So you'd have to speed up. So they recommend a minimum NCV duty cycle of 25. We don't recommend going lower than that. Rate sensor setup. Here's your flow meter calibration. This is the number on the tag on your flow meter at the back. Those tags go missing. Good idea on your machine to take note of this in case that tag goes missing and we have to do some setup, or something happens to the monitor, we have to reset it up. If we don't have that number, we have to guess at a number and do a bunch of calibrating and figure the unit out. As well, on these machines, we have a fill flow meter underneath the tank. That flow meter number should also be recorded in your book, or take a picture of the screen and keep it for this machine. That might save you a lot of grief down the road. Tank fill settings. So we call these sprayers 1600 gallons, but if you actually fill it till it overflows out the overflow, it's probably closer to 1670 gallons. If you leave this at 1600 and fill it to the top, your tank will say empty, no gallons left, and you will still have product in the bottom of your tank. That could be an issue for some people. So I like setting it at 1670, and if we set it at 1600 and put 1670 in, it stops counting at 1600. Okay, current tank level. Right now our tank is empty, so 0 gallons is correct. If we accidentally hit the flush button and it removed the gallons, we could then manually enter something, but normally the flow meter will calculate that as we fill the machine. Low tank level alarm, 50 gallons, 100 gallons, 150, whatever you prefer. You can change that setting here. Max tanks fill PWM 60%. That is what the pump will run at when you turn the manual pump switch on out at the fill station. That'll run the pump at 60% for mixing or filling. Display setup. This is where we can go in and customize these bottom 3 readouts. Pressure setup. These are our pressure settings, or pressure sensor settings, to know what size a sensor is in there. Occasionally we've seen the pump pressure sensor fail, which then does not allow you to turn the system on because it thinks the pump has 0 pressure. On the odd occasion, we've gone in, switched that to none, ran without pump protection, and we're able to spray. We also have our minimum boom pressure and our maximum boom pressure here. NCV information. So from here, we can go in and we can select NCV heat map. So right now, all the little NCVs are green, and we can go through 3 pages of them. If one of them is yellow, it has an issue. The light on it will probably also be yellow. If one of them is red, the light on the NCV should also be red. That would help you indicate when you have a poppet sticking or something like that. You can watch this heat map. User settings. This is where we can go in and set up our remote to do stationary wireless remote setup. So we would turn wireless control on. We can tell it we either want to do it by section or by individual nozzle or NCV. At this point, it gives us our controller serial number. So if we turn our remote on, follow the instructions on the back of the remote, it'll be flashing at you. You punch in this number, it learns, the lights will go green, and use the instructions on the back of the remote to control the sprayer. Auto section control, we usually want that on. Group end NCVs, we do not want that one checked. NCV frequency. For years, AIM command was 10 hertz, 10 pulses per second. On this machine, we have the ability to go to 15 pulses per second or 20 pulses per second. Faster pulsing means better coverage, so we start off at 20. Certain situations, you may want to slow that down. If you're comparing it to an older machine with 10 hertz, the spray patterns look different. It may actually almost look finer, but it's a different look, and they definitely sound a little bit different. And as well, we want turn compensation enabled. We page across to the right. These guys we aren't using. Auto recirculate. If we turn that on, whenever we shut our spray boom off, it'll recirculate the product through the booms back to the tank. We turn it back on, it will stop the recirc and spray normally. This might be ideal for some situations, product that needs constant mixing to keep it mixed, this would be handy. But if you have a product that likes to foam, that might cause you some issues. So you may want to shut the auto recirculate off and just do a manual recirculation. If we go to the bell, this gives us alarm settings. So if we're off pressure alarm, if we're off 20%, it'll beep. Off rate 20%, it'll beep. NCV efficiency 10%, that is normally defaulted as not checked. If you turn that on, NCV efficiency basically will tell us if we have plugged filters. If our NCV efficiency starts running low on the display, we might have plugged filters. We're not getting enough product, we're under applying. If we're running over, that could indicate a leak somewhere on the machine. So it's nice to have that NCV efficiency turned on. Poppet health should always be turned on. That'll tell you if you have stuck poppets. On this tab, the gear with the water droplet, this is where we can set our presets for our rate, 1, 2, and 3, and pressure, 1, 2, and 3. And the lock is where we can see our various different activations that should be in the monitor. So if you have boom recirc, you have to have that on. We're always at nozzle level, aim flex 2. That's pretty straightforward. On the right hand side, if we hit the 1, 2, 3, this is what we call our tally registers. So we can see acres, gallons for lifetime, device totals, and distance totals. Just some information. Troubleshooting. If we click into there, this is where we can see trouble codes. So the bottom would be inactive codes. So we can look at history and see what they are. So notifications don't mean much, but this 523192.13, that is the number that you would give our service guys, and they can look up in the book, or you can look in your ops manual and you can actually see what is happening there.